Are you awake? People are awakening all over the world. Are we being controlled? I had a chance to sit down with two of the stars from the movie Awakening, Justin Tinto and Matt Hookins. All right, I want to welcome everybody to the show. Matt Hookins and Justin Tinto, and they are involved in this film called The Awakening. And I welcome Justin and Matt to the show. How are we doing today?
Very well. Thank you very much, John, for having us. Yeah, we're really good.
Yeah, cheers, John. It's great to be on.
I guess let's start with this, just looking at both of you, Matt's in Malta and Justin's in Dubai, and both have a lot of history in the film business. And I don't know who wants to answer this question, but what is the drive in this day and time to tell these stories through film?
First of all, The Awakening is a conspiracy thriller that basically, where the main character, Jason Reynolds, discovers that there are global controllers over the government and ultimately the pharmaceutical industry. And I wanted to, as the writer of Awakening, wanted to express things that I discovered and found. So I realized that by putting it in through film, that maybe people would listen to me, because in my real life, people thought I was so crazy with my ideas that they wouldn't really listen. I thought the best way to do it is through film.
I'll say this. I think there was a time period where there was these spans of life. There was kind of this perfect situation of brainwashing, if you will. Now that we're here, you see such a contrast in a belief or non-belief. Do you think it's two separate types of people? People that are being awakened, and then the people that just are still in this same, I guess, direction, same mindset, delivering the same information. Why is there such a contrast in this day and time that we see these differences?
Ultimately, the matrix or the system's been designed so well that even from the youngest age of going to school, that they get you to learn, regurgitate, and they then put you into a system where you're ultimately taking orders and taking instruction from someone, and you're punished if you're not. So ultimately, as you grow older and you start getting jobs and you work the 9 to 5, you don't really have the time. And so there's a lot of people that are awake that haven't so much been in the system, so that it's easier for them to break the system and realize that there are controlling systems around us. But with this film doesn't just sort of focus on the awakened group. It's also a film that if you're awakened, that you could sit with someone who's not awakened, and the story will gradually build to make people realize that there's a possibility that there is other powers over us. So yeah, I think there is a group that's completely asleep, and then there's a group that's completely awake. But I think there are a lot of people in the middle, and this film should hopefully take them over the edge. Do a bit more research, do a little bit more of their own.
I think it depends how much you care about it as well. Some people really care about knowing the truth. Some people do care, but don't care enough to explore or change anything. And then there's some people that just don't care at all. Like, okay, fine, that's happening, but does it affect my life? No, and let's carry on. So it's really hard to box people in and put them into different categories. But I completely agree with you. It feels like it's either all or nothing. And, that's why making a film like this is so important, because one of the key areas that people are looking at now is the media and the medium of media, and not your traditional news or reporters that used to watch, 5-10 years ago. It's social media, it's film, it's social media reels, it's these kind of movements that are building these audiences and making people feel like, oh, wait there, let me start questioning that, or let me start questioning this. Podcasts, look what we're doing now. It's a great form of people to speak openly without being directed or scripted, like a news anchor would reporting the daily bad news. It's like we can talk about anything, and people can agree with us or disagree with us. And that's kind of the beauty about it, I think.
I want to ask you this, Matt, because before we got on here, you were talking about you moved from London to Malta just because of the living conditions. Now, did Justin, being a writer on this project, did he approach you and pitch this to you? If that's the case, what made you dive into it, and what was your first thought process when you saw the project?
it's weird how things happen. And Justin definitely has a certain amount of good energy on his side, in the sense of things he said to me end up happening. And I've come from experience in this industry where people have always told me something would happen and it never does, or tries to take something from you, or not be as honest as they would usually do. So weirdly, I was in Dubai again. The power of social media. I posted something on my story, and Justin saw it. We were friends anyway. We'd met in Cannes a couple of years ago, and what Justin's just created is exactly what I created with a previous film called Prizefighter, where I was the writer, I played the lead role, I produced it, I brought in Russell Crowe and raised all the finance, and, just did way too much. And Justin, what he is trying to do and what he did with this film is exactly the same thing. So there was always a connection there. And when I was in Dubai, Justin reached out when I posted on my story. He said, "Hey, you're here." And I said, "Yeah, I'm here. Come over now." Like, it was like a very quick, thing that just happened. He came over, we spoke about it. He told me about the film and he's making it and all this kind of stuff. Because I've been through good experiences and bad experiences, I'm now in a position where I really want to help people, especially good people like Justin, who are like, you know what, I'm doing this for the art. I'm doing this because I love what I do. I'm doing this to make a change. And I said to him, look, I can help you. I can come on board if you want. I can help you with the script. I can produce it. I can bring some cast in. I can really elevate the project. And most people don't trust you when you say things like that, but he just trusted me, and we became really close. And everything, hopefully, I said I would do, I delivered on, and everything that he's done as well, he's delivered on. And we just kind of formed a brotherhood and a bond, a real strong bond there and then. Yeah, it's been one of the best experiences actually I've had on films, and I've been doing this for 13 years. So even things we've battled on, we've always come out of it stronger, and we've always quite agreed on a lot of stuff actually. Just like, there's quite a lot that we've got. Yeah. Me and you know the answer to this and how we fix this, and now it's working out how we do that with the crew or cast or whatever. So it's been a great experience.
Let me cut in there. Well, before we ever met, I sent Matt an Instagram message because I'd heard about this crazy guy that spent like 8 to 10 years taking this project from start to finish and being the star in the film and having Russell Crowe in it. And, he never stopped. There was always these things that were trying to hinder him from making it, but he just plugged away. And I heard this from a mutual friend of ours, and I was like, that's the guy. So I'd reached out to him before, and it was quite funny when I first met him at the Cannes Film Festival. He didn't have the time initially, but then all the stars aligned that when I met him in Dubai, that he had some time, and he just didn't want me to make the same, make mistakes that maybe he'd had to solve in his career. And that is true. That's what he did. So I trusted him, and I just went with it, and it's been one of the best experiences of my life. And I'll be always very grateful for Matt for that.
Oh, very nice. Look at that.
I have this philosophy in this book I wrote about, law of attraction, right? So if you understand your environment, you build the right foundation, and you understand your sensitivities. Tone attracts tone, and the timing of that tone is very important based on the demographic you're speaking to. Do you feel like you guys have a very similar tone is what made this work?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the fact that you said the law of attraction and The Secret, I'm heavily into all that sort of stuff, and it's part of my everyday routine, visualizations. And that's what I said to Matt. I said, mate, I wrote this under meditation. It was divinely inspired. And that's why I said, this is going to be one of the easiest films you've ever made. It's just going to it's all going to unfold at the perfect time. Everything that's going to come up will be solved. And it's been an ongoing joke with him, because he was like, man, you're going to be, this is like climbing Everest. This isn't going to be easy, man. It's going to be a nightmare. And then I'm just been like, totally in belief that, he was thinking naively, but I'm thinking spiritually that everything was going to unfold. And we have been very lucky with that, right, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one thing getting along with someone when you work with them, but, and there's people I've got along with, which I've worked with, but I'd never spend any time with outside of work. And there's the reverse of that. People I would go for a beer with, but then wouldn't spend any time working with. And it's been completely different with Justin. Like, he's really listened to my advice and really listened and then elevated himself, which people usually don't do. And also, we bonded on so many other things. So, we actually have same career goals. We actually being manly and working in the gym, and we love food as well. All these little things that some people just don't sort of have a similarity in. So even just like the ideas we come up with, we're like, oh yeah, you were thinking the same thing. Yeah, I was thinking, okay, how do we go about doing this? Okay, well, you take that angle, I'll take this angle. So I really hope this film does more for him, even though more so than what like my last film did for me, because he deserves it. And he's put so much hard work into this, right? He's a writer. He's been involved in the producing and executive producing. He's also had to pull out fires like I've done before, and also play the lead role and carry himself very well in front of other actors who've been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So
now thinking about that, tone attracts tone, and I'm a firm believer in source, and I think the stronger the source is collectively. So if you have one source, two source, three sources, and those three sources combined makes a collective source, that can generate success in my thought process. Where are you at now with the film? And based on the trials and tribulations, what have been setbacks and what have been some wins so far?
So we're at the very final stages of post-production. We're in a rare situation where we've got a fully financed film that doesn't have to pre-sell. We go into market where a lot of people want the film. Usually in the film business, just to give a very quick rundown, usually you have to go out and pre-sell and give away your product before you actually make it. And then you use some of that money to make the film. So it's like a catch-22. In this scenario, we did things a little differently, and hopefully it shakes up the industry a bit. We've financed the film ourselves, are now in a leading position where sales and distributors want it. It's got the highest value because the quality of the film has already been made. It's like having a house that's already been built and you can show the luxury kitchen and this and that, versus a house that's just land and a plot. So we're very close to boarding with a sales agent and talking to distributors, and we're taking the film to Cannes, and we've got a load of PR and marketing. Cannes is the film festival next month in the south of France. So we are in a stage where we're now making a decision which partner to join with on the distribution front. We're taking our time. We want to board with the right partner, but I think the film's going to be ready in the next couple of months, and we'll see who we decide to partner with in terms of the release. In terms of the fires that we've had to put out and the problems, every film, every film has its own problems. It's a miracle to make a film without any problems.
The art department situation, didn't it? I mean, during the art department fell out of bed, but ultimately Matt came to the rescue with a girl that was absolutely fantastic. She was a hardened, experienced girl that was just, again, timing. And again, with everyone, I never make anyone flustered. It's like, okay, this has happened. Something's wrong. I'm like, good. Something better is going to come along. Let's deal with it. And that was the attitude all the way through with anything.
Yeah. The one thing you have to consider on a film is it's a miracle to get a film made. And if you make a good film, that's, 2 miracles. But you've got to put a group of people together. Sometimes I think we had about 60 or 70 crew on set. So you've got to find a group of people, put them together for a couple of months, 14 to 16 hours a day. Everyone's got to get along. Everyone's got to gel. They've all got to work the team. Money is on the line, so you can't afford to stop and start and have any breakups and all this kind of stuff. Everyone's got their own views on stuff, their own angle, the news, what they're doing at home, their own personal stuff. So you always have a couple of things where you have to, sort out. And we had a couple of issues at the beginning with, like Justin said, with the art department and figuring out, they're not actually creating the look that we envisioned for the film. So what do? Do we carry on trying to use them and hope they make it work for us, or do we get rid of them and replace them? And that's quite tricky. And then I think the only other thing was in post now, it's just figuring out exactly the tone of the film so it doesn't come across, too cheesy or too serious, or, we've got to get the right levels of the tone of the film. And that's just an ongoing process. I always say you make a film 3 times. You make it in the script. You then make another film when you actually go in production and you're filming. And then you make a third film when you're in the edit, because everything changes with the edit and the grade and the sound and the music and VFX and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got to, hope that film that you deliver is liked and appreciated and enjoyed by audiences. So, there's a lot of things that have to go through the ropes to make it work.
Well, we didn't realize how long all the FX was going to take, because throughout the film, because it's for a conspiracy, it's not purely for a conspiracy audience, but because it's based on conspiracy, there are a lot of little clues that are left hidden there and everywhere, and every opportunity we leave little little clues to certain things. So with that and that amount of detail, the time's taken a little bit longer than we thought.
Now, Justin, when I read your bio, you have this, I call it Americana. Obviously, you're not from America, but it's kind of Americana type lifestyle. Played sports, went to good schools, had good training. What is your foundation, and where's your family from? What's your lineage? What is the percentages that's driving you, that made you? I mean, you're a good looking dude. What color are your eyes? Are they brown, brown eyes, blue eyes?
I think, well, they're blue. Yeah, blue. Yeah.
Okay. Because I have this theory about people in that part of the world. A lot of people would land in England, Ireland, wherever, and that's who they claim they are. But I think both of you have blue eyes, and I think the Scandinavian influence, because they engineered the world. Is there any connection to that? Because I think a lot of creativity comes from that bloodline.
Well, I'm half English and half Scottish. Yeah, it's not the most exotic combination. Some people think I might look a little Italian. But all my life I was, brought up in the UK, in Canterbury, Kent, and was at private school. So it kind of led me to sort of have the battle of myself about. I was listening to the system, to be honest. I was ticking off the boxes. I was going, done my GCSEs. That leads me to do my A-levels. Then what's expected of me is I've got to do my university, and I did business management at uni. When I went on a year out, I kind of realized that, my whole life I've always wanted to, at school, I loved theatre, and I was Kaniki in Greece, and I always was playing the fool, and that was more important than entertaining my classmates and stuff like that. But ultimately what happened was I kind of was like, let's make money. There's always my passion inside. And I actually was very much part of the matrix in the early days, because I was very fear driven about, that's for someone else, that can't happen for me. So I would always go, right, let's just be safe. Even though when I came to Dubai, I had set up a modeling agency that was so I could do some modeling, I could do some commercials, I could do those things that satisfied me. But I was, it was only when I started learning about watching The Secret and watching people saying that we can achieve anything, we can do anything, and stop worrying and looking into the future, which was all fear-based, and looking in the past, which is regret, and just living in the moment. And then finally, I went to Pinewood Studios and I started doing acting, because I didn't really have any intentions to act for a TV show or a TV series. I always knew that I'd want to create my own thing. And then ultimately I got so old that I needed to do that, because otherwise no one would have looked at me. So, yeah.
Yeah, John, he's much older than he looks. He's pushing, what are you, 50, 51 now, 52?
51 now, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, John, don't say that. Don't say that.
You got a little,
yeah.
I call that training. A lot of people don't realize that I'm big into physics. I understand the quantum field, and I'm kind of diving deep in that space. And I have this information in my head, but a lot of people don't realize that science only uses two parts of law of attraction to determine answers for humanity, which has created a realm of physics that is a bad realm of physics. When you think about Oppenheimer and Einstein, and then that goes back to the Newtonian model of reality, which put us behind the curve. Einstein and Oppenheimer weren't that smart because they landed on the dark side of discovery. That's the foundational piece of kind of the story you're telling. And a lot of people don't understand that. Have you guys ever thought about that, of how there's a realm of physics that's been created that's not a true realm of physics? The quantum field is the real realm of physics, and there's a lot of misinformation there. Do you think if we went to the foundation of this and tried to educate people the right way, there might be a better understanding of these people that don't understand the story you're trying to tell?
I'm the same. I'm kind of trying to deep dive into a bunch of physics and science on that side, and it seems one thing that's clear is that a lot of people have a lot of different theories on even just I was deep diving into like the aspect of time the other day, and there was one physicist saying time doesn't exist. If you go to anywhere else in the universe, it wouldn't even be relative. And then there's the concept of relativity, right? So I'm really interested in all that, and I've actually built my next project around that. I got sort of really inspired by science and physics podcast, but then mixing it with like the elements of life and creation. because when you try to marry things up, it never really makes sense. And I don't think it's ever going to make sense. And I think you can hear one theory, and my sort of conclusion, although I'm still deep diving into it constantly and I'm reading a bunch of books and everything on it as well, is that we just don't know. You know, it's so advanced. There's so much out there, and to try and pack it into physics and different things that make sense is then something that your brain can just talk about and you go, that doesn't make sense. To travel across the universe and how to, you know, the value of the speed of light and the sun and all this stuff is is things that I've gone, okay, you know what? We're not there yet to fully understand it. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying people's theories on it, but I don't know enough of it to put a stamp on it and say, this is real.
Ironically, I have the answer for you because, you know, law of attraction is the melding block of life. And there's two mindsets in the world. There's a discovery mindset and there's a creation mindset. Probably 99% of the people in the world have a discovery mindset.
Yeah.
But if you understand creation, you can get to answers quicker. But if you stay in a discovery mindset, you're never going to get there. It's all about the foundation, and it's a little simpler than you realize because I actually wrote a book on this. I use content because on social media, content mirrors human behavior. And the only thing it offsets the human behavior is the algorithm of whatever the app is trying to sell and whatever their business model is. So if you understand that content is mirroring human behavior, you're looking at yourself because they've collected this data from humans. So when you understand that, basically using that content, I was able to demonstrate the quantum field because if you put out a tone to the world on social media, I call it the casting call has already been done for you. You put out a tone in whatever genre that is, whatever tone you get back, tone attracts tone, whatever demographic you get back, that is your alignment right there. Tone to tone is your alignment. So when you look at those demographics, you can design anything based off those demographics. A business, you eliminate the bad customer. And a lot of people don't understand that as well because we can understand our environment. We can accept things in our environment or not accept things in our environment. There's things in our environment we have to accept. And just by our birth date alone, when we're born, we know our directions of health, wealth, prosperity, whatever that is. So we have two parts of law of attraction that we have all these answers to that we're not utilizing the right way. Because if you can educate people on their direction and their alignment for their success, health, whatever that is, based on their birth date alone, we have that information. If you look at the 4 pillars of feng shui, you're going to eliminate the bad customer. Yeah. How many people have been married? They married the wrong person because they weren't aligned with the right tone of person they were supposed to marry. So if we start to understand the simple things and align ourselves the right way, it's going to make us understand the sensibilities a lot better because I don't believe in yin and yang because the creation is one. It's staying centered. It's understanding what you accept and what you don't accept and how you're programmed through your life with your subconscious. You have your environment, you have your foundation, you align based on your birth date alone, and then we teach you how you're being programmed through your subconscious. Right? Yeah. Because people get to a certain point of life that they start responding to things with their unconscious bias based on that programming.
It's 95%, isn't it? Like the whole program of our subconscious. And that's what I was saying about working within the fear matrix. So I had to listen to these videos that basically snapped me out of that because we, rather than reacting to the world, you create the world and create through your vision, through your imagination. That for me works very well. But to have to snap out of that the subconscious programming.
If you create the narrative, it's just like Bruce Lee said this in 1972. Said if you create a style, you create a category, you create a topic, and that topic becomes the gospel. You crystallize growth, and then you stay behind that narrative. So if you create something new, and you lead with that new idea that nobody knows, and they're following through your lead, you eliminate all the stuff that can cause you problems in life. Does that make sense?
100%. By creating that film, that gave me the ability not to have to go down the usual route, which would lead to rejection and no's and all that sort of stuff, which is what I wouldn't have wanted to do. I didn't want to go down that route.
I had to send you guys a copy of my book. I mean, it's a little deep. A lot of people don't get it, but if we understand creation and we understand foundation, we can get to these answers a lot faster and get out of this discovery mode, because I think there's a lot of fractional information out there that kind of gives me a headache.
We're not taught from a young age that you can, it's within you, rather than you're listening to your teachers, your parents and everything else, where we're led to believe that they have the answers for us. And that's why so many people make wrong decisions, rather than listening, quietening your mind, meditating on it and sitting on it and feeling it and hearing your higher self, or source consciousness, however you want to describe it, because it's there to help you, because no one knows better than yourself.
Have you read A Crack in Creation, John?
I have not.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's called A Crack in Creation. It's about gene editing and lifestyle, but it's kind of a mix between science and the law of attraction in that sense. I saw a documentary. I can't remember the name of it. I've been trying to search for it for a second. I remember this documentary really well about, he came up with the theory of, 99% of your brain is habit, and you're going to do that over and over again. And there's that 1% that's creativity, but you've got to tap into the 1% to really change the course of your life, or to, learn something new. And he compared it to the analogy of, going in and learning an exam. 5 days later, you forget it because you're not building it into the creative side of your brain. You just habit by just learning.
We feed off what we see. If we feed off what we see, we create more opinions and controversy. But if we create something new and lead, we eliminate opinions and controversy, because we're all waiting for someone to give us a big gift instead of understanding ourselves, just like Justin was saying before.
I'm a big belief in, I use this word loosely, because I'm looking for a better word than manifestation. If you have an idea in your brain that's good, or you want to achieve, the only way you can do that is you've got to create the idea in your brain, and then you've got to make a plan to execute the idea. Then you've got to execute the idea. Then you've got to show people, or show the world your idea. And people say, oh yeah, that's manifestation, but it is in a form. But if the idea never started, and then most people don't even want to commit and create the idea, it's never ever going to happen. It all starts from the creativity of your brain, and that's that's kind of why I love what I do in that sense. I like creating something that has a reaction and makes people feel something.
There's alignment within that concept, right? Justin, you come up with the idea of writing the script. There's an alignment within you that has to build value within that concept. I think you have to build value within yourself, because if you build value within yourself, they will come. Do you feel like that, Justin, at all? Like when you have these things that you create and they are accepted based on an idea, do you feel like you're building more value in yourself?
Well, I certainly feel like I don't need to have external stimulants, to be honest. Like alcohol, I haven't drunk for 8 years now. I used to be quite a heavy drinker. It was originally going down the rabbit holes. I generally do believe I was completely guided with the story, because it just flowed. I was given, but it came down in chunks of information, and I just got it written down. It's a lot where, there's people who write songs, they just say, I don't know where it came from. It just came. And that was very much how it came from me. Because of that, I think the universal consciousness has brought me all the people that needed it to be done, and also the people that are now wanting to push it forward. And with the truth movement and with the conspiracy groups, I believe that everyone would be, want to be part of this, because we all know it's for the greater good of humanity, because we know what's going on in the world. The only way to get out of it is for us to work together and, shine a light on it, and to wake as many people up, so we're not going to end up being completely controlled.
John, I just remembered the documentary. It's called The Beautiful Truth. It's brilliant. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really, really incredible. There's an element to it which is kind of helping people that have cancer and telling them different ways to do things. But I remember the theory, the Gerson theory. So have a little look at that. That's really tapped into everything that you're saying, and it sounds like related to the book that you've written. It's great. It's called The Beautiful Truth.
Well, for me too, like Justin says, this feeling came within. I never thought I'd have a podcast. Didn't want a podcast. Never thought I'd be on camera. But like I've read one book and half the Bible, and somehow this information that I wrote about demonstrating the quantum field through social media, I don't even know where it came from.
Yeah.
Well, I know where it came from.
Believe it or not, I was told my bloodline was from John the Baptist, and all this research started because I have Native American on both sides of my family, and from this Blue Ridge Mountain area, which I think is one of the four corners of the world. And these mountains recently have been showing themselves to me. So there is a collective consciousness going on. I mean, y'all's film looks great. The production value looks amazing. You said you're 3 months out. So what is the next steps currently? Because I think you're doing a great job building this grassroots campaign for the brand. Are y'all wanting to do multiple films if this one is a success?
Yeah, it's a trilogy. The second one's already been written. The third one's half been written. We've obviously got to polish it. It's just the first draft of the second one. But yeah, it's certainly we're not finishing there. There's a lot more truths to be told. A lot more exciting stories that we can portray, and we're loving the experience, aren't we, Matt?
This film is really, we're really happy with it, really pleased with it. It's a nice element of the conspiracy side, but there's also a nice bit of drama, action. The acting is great as well. We have a couple of little surprises in there that people are going to turn their heads to, which is great. But yeah, just having, this is having the freedom to create something without being sort of directed or dictated in a specific way. And it's been a great process.
And Matt, touching on your foundation before we get off here, what is your foundation and lineage?
So I'm originally Welsh. Grew up in a very working class family in Wales in a place called Newport, which was kind of the industrial city of South Wales in that sense. My father was a boxing champion. He was British heavyweight champion in 1984. The acting, I've always been acting since a young kid. Worked with a lot of successful people. I worked with Angelina Jolie and Tom Cruise and Ridley Scott and a bunch of Hollywood productions, all in London. So I spent 10 years in London. But then I just started seeing the mistakes. I had the roots from the acting, and I was on a $200 million film, and I just thought, ooh, the acting was a bit off, or does the director really know what he's doing? Or I would have done that differently. And obviously, good element of the stunt world is you spend a lot of time watching and sitting around because you're waiting to come on. So I was able to build up, okay, that person does that, this person does this. Let me be friends with the sound guy. Let me pick up the DOP's contact or the camera guy. So I built up a really good level of contacts, and every job I did, we were kind of jumping with the same team. This was like back in 2012, 13, 14. So, one team would go to the next film, the other team would go to the next film. There was a nice little click and a lovely bit of money behind it, which was great. But then I just made a very conscious decision. I just quit, and I just thought, you know what, I want to make my own stuff. I was doing that 6 days a week, and then on Saturday and Sunday I was making my own short films. And I was doing everything from acting to producing to writing to, being the sound guy and the camera and, just everything. And then fast forward, I set up Camelot Films in 2013, moved from short films into feature films, and started building finance and understanding the actual business side of the industry and how to make a film that actually makes profit and money. The first film I put together, was a small independent film for a couple $100,000, and then the last film I put together was obviously Prizefire, which was $17 million with a budget with Russell Crowe. So, come a whole long way of learning the business side and understanding the actual aspects of financing and distribution and sales and getting stung and learning the hard way along the way. And now in a position where, we've got a group of, individuals in my company, which I really trust and are smart, and we're trying to build our own stuff, have control, kind of like what's happening at the moment with Ryan Coogler, who's just directed the new film Sinners. The industry is collapsing in I don't want to sound too negative about that, but the industry and its old way is collapsing because films need to be made cheaper, they need to be made quicker, and they still need to be good. And there needs to be less made because there's too much out there now. Your studio producer who's used to doing an independent film for $30 million that can't do an independent film for less than that, they're just going to disappear because no one wants to take the risk anymore. And what we're trying to do is build our own stuff, have a back-in and support from a studio, but be able to do it for a lot less, keep the quality, still work with the likes of famous actors, like Russell Crowe or whoever else we want to work with, and have the trust and control to be able to deliver something. And that's exactly what's just happened with Ryan, the director I mentioned. He's just made a film called Sinners, which is blowing up everywhere. But the main thing about that film is he took it to a studio and said, I will make this. It's new. It's original. It's not, Avengers 10. It's a new original concept. It's a story, but I want full control. I want control over the back end. I want no studio head or someone, in a suit that's just watching from afar, telling what can and can't be in it. And the film is absolutely, it's shifted the industry in the last week or so because it's done so well. I think it made its money back, or most of its money back, in a single day. And I don't want to sound sort of selfish in saying this, but I hope we are the ones on the sort of receiving end to benefit from it, because we're working so hard. And I've been doing this for 13 years, just really, really making a film, making it successful. It goes out, and then you're back to square one. You're back to hustling. You're back to struggling. You're back to finding the money for things and building the next project. And each film is different. So each film is like putting together a new business. It's a tough industry. It's very unforgiving. So, the audience and the demand for content is going up. People still enjoy it. But, I think a very, very sharp shift is due and coming around the corner.
Well, I think that passion will leave a lot of people behind, if you will, because if you're I'm kind of that same type of guy. When I did music videos, is I was like seeing all these people, 50 people standing around, and they didn't want to do a good job. And I was like, all right, I got to teach myself how to do everything, because then nobody can bullshit me. And now today, that's how I've been able to build my business, because I was able to do everything. So,
and I'm a believer in that. I think it's I also think it's bullshit as well. I think you can learn a lot of stuff. Yes, you want someone in the sound department or someone in the special effects department to know more than you, but you need to know a certain amount. Otherwise, people will try and pull the rug from under you. And people's intentions are not always the same. I don't really criticize people for their intentions being differently, but some people's intentions are just to make money. Some people's intentions are to slot something in because they got a week or two free and they've got something else. Some people are just about the art, and they're like, that's kind of the wrong thing as well. You need to have an understanding of what you're creating, the business side, your performance and what you're doing and your involvement in a project also has a knock-on effect with everyone else. And that goes from, everyone from the actors to the crew to everything, right? You can have the most amazing actor in the world, but if they're difficult to work with, you're not going to produce a great film. Or like Justin mentioned earlier, you have one person, a HOD, that causes problems or is not aligned, the whole film is at risk. And you've always got to remember the film and the project is bigger than one single person, and it doesn't matter who you are.
Now, Justin, your pictures look great on IMDb.
Oh, thank you so much. That's because Matt's they're 20 years old, but it's okay. You've got to change them. Yeah, I know. I wanted to mention that, because we kind of sort of tied on from that, is that, I'm trying to tell a message with Awakening, and we're building a community, the Awakening community, and we also have a website called breakthesystem.world, where not only can you go and see more stuff about the film, but you can actually go down the rabbit hole as well, so you can sort of educate yourself on certain levels of awakenedness. And we're looking to grow that through the trilogy. So we build and build and build, and then ultimately we can actually start listening to the community to find out if there's any areas that they feel like we should shine a light on in a certain, whatever conspiracy that is, and then we can make the films to our audience as well.
I don't know if there's a misunderstanding. I mentioned that about the live shows and trying to brand that around that, but I think with you guys being 3 months out, I think that's what you're doing is a big deal right now. And do we want to touch on who's starring in the film?
We've got Peter Stormare in the film, who famously was in Prison Break, and he was in the villain in Constantine and John Wick. Unbelievable actor, good friend of mine as well, and just he plays the kind of villain in it and brings the crazy kind of quirkiness that's needed. He's great. He just did all the campaign for Call of Duty as well. So he's got a bunch of viral videos. Go out there. He's incredible. Alice Eve is our female lead. She was the lead in Star Trek. She's done a bunch of stuff as well, and a great face and a great name. And she carries a very different look in this. She has pink hair. She has tattoos. It's something very different for her. And then we have obviously Justin Tinto, the famous guy on camera now, and I play one of the villains as well. A character called Lex. Then we've got Eddie Hall, World's Strongest Man, who's kind of my sidekick. We're kind of joined together. It's Eddie Hall's kind of first serious role, which we're excited about because, Eddie has such a big following online that it just taps into another audience. A lot of young like kids and teenagers and people in the gym follow him, so that's great. Then we have a bit of royalty. We've got Stephen Burkhoff, who's God, man, he's 86 or 87 now, I think. Been around for God knows how long. He did 2 films with Stanley Kubrick, Barry Lyndon. Oh God, what was the famous one he did?
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Nice.
And then we've got Julian Glover as well. Julian Glover is, he's in the original Star Wars. He's in Indiana Jones. These are old, real legends that have come together for the first time on screen, and they're both like Julian's 90 and Stephen is 86. So that's really exciting and another element to the film. Have I missed anyone? Just who else have I missed?
No. That's it, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and then we've got a very nice surprise at the end, which we can't reveal yet. But let's just say it's someone that everyone's going to recognize. It's an A-list actor, and it's very fitting for the role that he plays. It's a very disruptive move to bring him in. So I think that's I'll pause right there, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, I think it's been a great interview. I think everybody's excited to see the film. I think it has a great message, and looking forward to it. This has been Justin Tinto, who is the writer and star of the film, and the CEO producer, Matt Hookings of Camelot Films. Check out those guys. And like I said, looking forward to the film. My name is John Edmonds Kozma, CEO of Bang Productions, owner of the TikTok Live Creator Network Agency, and host of the Unimpressed Podcast. See you next time.